Hey guys, Pratima here. Motorola has been launching a lot of smartphones lately. Whether you want a budget, mid-range or a flagship device, the company has got you covered. And some of the Moto phones that we've tested were really impressive too, like the Moto G52. But as you go higher up the ladder, the value for money aspect of Motorola phones sort of begins to drop. Such was the case with the Moto G71. It was a decent 5G phone for the price with a clean software experience, but it fell behind in a couple of factors, especially the cameras. And Motorola has tried to address those compromises with this phone, the Moto G82. For example, it brings an OIS camera, 120Hz refresh rate display, stereo speakers, and Android 12 experience right out of the box. And it is priced competitively at 21,500 Indian rupees too. But does the Moto G82 have what it takes to stand out in this ultra-competitive mid-range segment? Let's discuss all that after a quick message from the sponsor of today's video, Ugreen. The Ugreen Nexo 200-watt charger is easily the coolest power brick we've ever used in our office. It can simultaneously charge up to 6 devices via the 4 USB-C and 2 USB-A ports. And since it uses GaN and SiC technology, this thing is relatively compact and it does not get very hot either. Learn more about the Ugreen Nexo 200-watt charger from the link given in the description and make sure to use our code for an extra 10% off. Okay, back to the review. The biggest highlight of the Moto G82 is definitely its display. I mean, there must be a reason why Motorola is calling this the best OLED display phone without an asterisk at the end, right? While that's obviously a gross exaggeration, but if you look at the spec sheet, things certainly look convincing. From a 10-bit OLED panel that can produce over a billion colors, 100% DCI-P3 gamut, to a buttery 120Hz refresh rate, it's certainly got what it takes to be among the best. And in my usage too, this is really one heck of a display to look at and interact with. Colors appear lively under the saturated profile. It gets bright enough to stay visible under the sun or dim when it's dark. The viewing angle's alright, and Motorola has also trimmed the bottom chin a little this time. And its Wideband L1 certification means that you can binge all your favorite shows and movies in high definition too. But there are a few things that I wish were slightly better here. First off, as much as I love the punchy color reproduction, the display is a bit aggressively reddish. This is not noticeable when you're casually browsing the web or something like that, but as soon as you watch a video with a lot of human subjects, then it becomes clear as day. You can switch to the natural sRGB preset for a finer color tuning, but it messes up with the white balance, and the temperature slider does not do much either. Likewise, the Moto G82 has not been tuned to play HDR videos here, be it on OTT platforms like Netflix or even YouTube. So I think Motorola should do something about the display issues with a software update, because it does have a good OLED panel, but looks like they have not optimized it to its fullest potential. Now, in terms of design, I feel like if you're familiar with one Moto G phone, then you're familiar with all the Moto G phones, because all the Moto G phones look pretty much the same. Here, the Moto G82 is available in either grey or white color options, and I've got to say that I'm quite fond of this white colored variant. I would have preferred it more if Motorola had gone with a matte finish that does not invite fingerprint smudges as much, but that's okay. It feels pretty comfortable to hold thanks to its relatively lightweight build and the subtle curves at the back. It is also IP52 certified, which should do good against minor spills and stuff. As for the buttons, they have a great tactile feedback, and this fingerprint sensor also works quite well. But since the volume rockers are now placed so high above, I often struggle to reach them when using the phone with one hand. The Moto G82 also brings stereo speakers, and the sound quality, I would say, is decent even at max volumes, but the upper earpiece, which is also the secondary speaker unit, is not tuned properly. Because of this, you can literally feel the beat whenever you're listening to something with the phone in your hand, which is rather distracting. Anyway, I have no complaints about its call quality though. The network reception is excellent, and the typing experience here is fluid as well because of the 360Hz touch sampling rate. If only Motorola had gone with a stronger vibration motor, it would have just been the icing on the cake. Okay, let's talk about its performance now, but do I even really need to, since the Moto G82 is powered by the same Snapdragon 695 chip as the Moto G71. And because of such average processor at helm, I noticed that this phone fails to keep up with the 120Hz refresh rate at many occasions. Even the auto refresh rate feature here does not seem to work all the time. However, this chipset is fine for regular everyday chores, including heavy multitasking. But to be honest, I was really hoping Motorola would go with at least Dimensity 900 this time, considering the price. And looking at a couple of synthetic benchmarks, it's obvious that the Dimensity 900 would have been the better choice of chipset for this phone. The 695 trails behind the MediaTek chip both in terms of CPU and GPU performance. Hence, in terms of gaming, you are going to get pretty average results. Here, PUBG Mobile maxes out at just 40 FPS under smooth graphics and ultra frame rates, but the gameplay is decently good with comfortable temperatures. Similarly, Apex Legends is well playable under normal graphics and very high frame rates, with the phone delivering 45 to 50 FPS on average alongside a few stutters. But when playing some high FPS titles or Genshin Impact, this chip begins to show its true colors. Even after switching to low graphics and 30 FPS mode, there are frame drops every now and then here. Injustice 2, which is a 120 FPS game, occasionally goes beyond the 60 FPS mark, but the FPS stability is way too fluctuating to be at all enjoyable. Anyway, keeping the mediocre gaming experience aside, I am thoroughly enjoying the near stock Android 12 experience on this phone. Plus, Motorola offers a ton of personalization features as well. From the classic Moto action gestures to everything inside the Moto app, you will be absolutely spoiled with the customization choices here. But sadly, Motorola's software update policy still disappoints, since the Moto G82 has just one generation of OS and 3 years of security updates on the cards. And at a time when smartphone companies are consistently improving their software update game, Motorola should also get in on the action as quickly as possible. Okay, now it's time to dive into the cameras, and if you recall my review of the Moto G71, I was not that impressed with its camera performance, so I do not really have high hopes for the G82 because apart from adding OIS on the primary sensor, it does not actually bring anything new. But on my test, the Moto G82 did actually pull off some decent shots during day with nice colors and dynamic range. But more often than not, its images are simply not that sharp and detailed, as it occasionally struggles to lock in focus, even if it might appear so on the viewfinder. So you can already imagine how it handles low light conditions. For some reason, Motorola favors cool hues here, which fails to preserve the warm street light aesthetics of Kathmandu. Not only that, I didn't find its onboard optical image stabilization all that useful, since the G82's nighttime photos are soft, noisy, and have subpar dynamic range and exposure control. And turning on the night mode brightens up the image a little bit, but that's about it. As you'd expect from a mid-range phone, the Moto G82's ultra-wide-angle camera is pretty mediocre too, be it in terms of detail, contrast, or dynamic range. Portraits also share a similar story, where it especially fails to maintain background exposure control. Its selfies, on the other hand, are surprisingly nice though. There's a little smoothing going on, but it shoots pleasing images with balanced colors and details that are ready to be uploaded to your favorite social media platforms. Okay, getting to videos, you will not find a 4K recording option here, which is purely a Snapdragon 695 limitation. And as you can see, its 1080p 60 FPS footages are jittery with pretty bad exposure. And when shooting at 1080p 30 FPS with stabilization turned on, I noticed that the videos retain choppy frames. So this is most likely due to the limited processing ability of the Snapdragon 695's ISP, combined with the lack of optimization on Motorola's part. Okay, about the selfie videos, well, I won't say that they're very good either. As you can see, the exposure maintenance is not very good and the skin tone is not consistent most of the times. Also, the stabilization, well, it's not very good, as you can see. So just like the rear cameras, the selfie camera is also average. Finally, the Moto G82 is powered by a 5000 mAh battery, which will easily last you a day. Under light to medium usage, I was getting around 6 to 7 hours of screen on time on this phone, which is good, but still drastically low compared to the Moto G71. So this might be because of the power hungry 120Hz refresh rate here, but what I was actually shocked by is its standby life, as the phone loses around 7 to 10% charge on average per day. If I recall, the Moto G71 had an excellent standby time. Hopefully Motorola fixes this too with a future update. As for charging, the Moto G82 is nowhere near the fastest charging phone in this segment, as it only supports 30-watt fast charging, which juices up the phone from 0 to 100% in about 1 hour and 20 minutes. Okay, time to wrap up this review. Like I discussed in the beginning, Moto G series of phones often struggle to justify their value proposition as they get more and more expensive. And this guy is no exception. For a phone of this price range, the Snapdragon 695 for me clearly does not make sense. And there are some critical optimization issues with its display as well as the cameras. So my recommendation is, if you want a more balanced mid-range phone, I'll suggest raising your budget a little for the Realme 9 Pro Plus and the Galaxy M52 instead. Likewise, you can also consider the Poco X4 Pro that's on sale right now, and it offers a lot more better value for money on top of nicer cameras, faster charging, relatively premium build quality, and more. So guys, there you have it. This was a full review of the Motorola G82. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And while you're there, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit that notifications bell. Till then, I'm Pratima, and thank you so very much for watching.